Let's podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovies inside Eford Studios in downtown Raleigh. Thanks to Empire Properties and thanks to Copiers Plus. Check them out online at copiers-plus.com. Print management, document management, more importantly, IT work. They know the IT, so you don't have to deal with it. Just ask Joe Giglio, who sometimes has issues with IT. You don't want to deal with it, so you get the experts to deal with it, like Copiers Plus.
You've never been more appreciated for your expertise than you are right now.
Stop it. I watched a little bit of it from the Morehead City Country Club at the wedding that I was at. It seemed like it was working fine. Plus,
what a fucking disaster.
You were fine. Plus, Roy Cooper brought the heat, baby.
He did. We did get a curse,
which we'll get to that in a second.
I was very excited about. It almost felt like him admitting that he hated Duke. Like it was his own way of like saying to me, fine, I'll give you one bone.
Also, what other local sports podcast is going to give you former North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper dropping heat on Tom Wilson and Pablo Torre? Pablo Torre finds out the podcast on the same episode. Pablo's going to join us after housekeeping. We're going to follow up on his story regarding Jordon Hudson and Bill Belichick and the whole was she or was she not banned from the facility conversation and why the hell we're so fascinated by this story. So that's going to come up after housekeeping. We do have game 4 tonight at Lenovo Center between the Carolina Hurricanes and the Washington Capitals. I caught a little bit of the After Dark, and we'll be back in action tonight immediately following the game. And I read Luke's column, too, this idea that, to your point, you're right. Sometimes these second rounds can go quick. And Luke also kind of floated the idea that perhaps a game like this, after the first games in Washington were close, but still domination by the Carolina Hurricanes, a 4-0 win can break a team. I just don't know that yet. But I want to kind of recap game 3 a little bit before we get into tonight and my theory as to why I don't think this thing is wrapped up in 5 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
First and foremost, the biggest thing that has to be said, Freddie Andersen is paying off dividends because they do not get out of this game. And I know you referenced it on Saturday night and Roy Cooper did too, which we'll get to in a second. They're not in this game without him. And this has been the Freddie that we've been waiting for. I don't want to jinx it, but I think we can all recognize this is it. This is what we've been waiting for out of Freddie Andersen.
Yeah, it got overshadowed in 2023 because Bobrovsky was just a little bit better, but that was the level that he was playing at. He was playing at a level that was good enough for the Carolina Hurricanes to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
The save on Tom Wilson on a breakaway in the first 2 minutes of this game, we can talk about this one forever if you'd like.
Yeah.
And if the Hurricanes do win the Stanley Cup, it will be because of plays like that.
Which, update, they are now the odds-on favorite to win the Stanley Cup.
Because if Tom Wilson, after the game that he had and the impact that he had in game 3, the game 2, the Capitals win. If he scores 2 minutes into that game, forget it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a Capitals win. I'm telling you right now, that's a Capitals win, as good as the Hurricanes are at responding and coming back. So that was the most important save to me of the night. And there were a lot of saves, and I thought both goalies played really well in the first period. The second period, this Andrei Svechnikov goal, it's not a sneaky Pete because he didn't come out of the penalty box, but he jumped in there and stole a faceoff, what was a faceoff loss for the Hurricanes, and turned it into a goal. And I really think we're seeing Andrei Svechnikov become the best version of himself right before our eyes here in 2025.
So I want to go back to Saturday night conversation you had with former Governor Roy Cooper, our senior OG media caniac for the After Darks. Of course, the After Darks brought to you by our friends at Bloomin' Blinds. Give them a call, 919-980-9815. You get 10 or more window treatments. They're going to give you 10% off, but they go beyond just new stuff. They repair blinds as well. So give them a call, 919-980-9815. Some of this is a setup in terms of like, how far is this going to go? And I'm with Roy Cooper. I think this is going to go 6. It could potentially go 7, and I'll explain why in a second. But I do think that Roy's take on the game leads into something else that's come out of this series that I found amusing.
Maybe there's another game 6. We'll see.
Yeah, it's starting to think the Hurricanes have control of this series. Look, first period I thought was all about goaltending, Coop, and then second period, Andrei Svechnikov gets things going, and then really the last 2 periods of this game were the as we've been talking about all this whole playoffs, how the Canes want to play, how they control the puck. Not so much even shot volume tonight with only 28 of them only. Just more puck possession and control. They just strangled, it felt like they just strangled the Capitals tonight. I just feel like total control.
Well, I thought Andersen was the MVP because the early shots that Washington got were amazing. When you have Ovechkin who came off of that face-off on that set play and was right in front of Anderson. That was a big stop. He had a puck jump over his stick, wide open in front of a gaping, well, it wasn't a gaping net because Anderson was there. He didn't leave a gaping net all night. There were a number of great saves in that first period. And had Washington scored one in that first period, I'm not sure we'd see the same game that we saw the rest of the way. I think they knew that Washington playing like they did and they didn't score was a big boost to the team. And I was so proud of them. It was great that Robinson finally got that shot to go in that he'd been shooting with regularity. It was nice to see Roslovic score and Blake with that last one. He's been playing so hard. What a great game all around. First period defensively. Well, defensively throughout this game, really fantastic. And I don't know about the shots this time. Obviously, we piled them up in the third period, and it wasn't as scattershot as we usually are. And maybe that's a good thing. I don't know, but it was a great game, great hitting. I saw that Wilson had 11 hits tonight, and I loved it when Martinook put him on his ass. I think that was third period. That was a lot of fun.
You're in the spirit. I like this.
No, it was great.
It was on you or something, but
it was excellent. No, it was excellent.
I was not expecting Roy Cooper. Like, yeah, put him on his ass. Love that.
That was good.
I absolutely love that.
So to your point about how sometimes the second round can go fast.
Yeah.
The Hurricanes have played 14 series under Rod Brindamore. They've won exactly 2 in 5 games or less.
Yeah.
In the second round in 2019, when they swept the Islanders, the only sweep under Rod Brindamore, and in the second round of 2023, when they beat the Devils in 5 games.
Here's why I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay.
This is why I don't think it's going to be quick. I want to preface this. I want to set this up by giving Mike Maniscalco credit. When the Canes wrapped up their series against the Devils and it looked like the Washington Capitals were going to be the opponent, Mike was setting up the storylines that we all knew we were going to talk about, dating back to 2019, the last time these two teams met, and where Andrei Svechnikov was in his career and where Ovechkin was in his career. And I don't need to rehash. We all know that Svechnikov got it handed to him. We all recognize that.
Okay.
But we also know that Svechnikov is at a different point in his career and Ovechkin is at a different point in his career. And Svechnikov has been absolutely locked in this postseason. He's got 6 goals in 8 games. You get away from the score sheet, which people do love to talk about. He has been a physical presence. He has been setting the tone. They're not here without Svechnikov. We understand this.
He has now scored more goals in this postseason than he has at any point in his career.
So
in 8 games.
Contrast that to Alexander Ovechkin. 0 goals, 0 assists in a 3-game stretch here against the Carolina Hurricanes. The last time, or the only other time that's happened, was once this season in the regular season. Once. Okay. And also you're looking a little bit, but you like to say styles make fights, right? You got the Canes' depth versus the Washington Capitals and how they go about winning. They're selective. Their top end guys are going to score. Well, we're seeing that play out. I believe the stat is the Canes have 14 players with a point. The Caps only have 6. Tom Wilson's included in this, who's been hits-wise fine, but also somewhat quiet. You're telling me that Alexander Ovechkin is going to continue this path? You're telling me that the guy who's the all-time goals leader in the NHL is going to be quiet this entire series? That's what you're telling me.
I'm telling you.
You're telling me that Alexander Ovechkin, to borrow your Clemson parlance, fuck you, I'm still Alexander Ovechkin from my spot? You're telling me that's going to happen tonight?
There could be one of those tonight for sure. Could be.
I'm calling it tonight.
But I'm going to tell you this.
Yeah.
And I know people there should be a bingo card on it's a year-to-year proposition.
I know.
I'm about to go back to 4-2.
Okay.
And again, you can't knock me off of things I see in person. I saw that night a motivated Canes team to make sure that Alexander Ovechkin did not get any closer to that record.
Fair.
And the only goal he scored in that game was a 5-on-3 gift. Okay. And if I was Rod, I would have put 2 people on his ass and made the other 4 beat the one guy.
That's fair.
That's what I would have done.
That's fair.
I would have been
fair.
crazy petty. But here's the thing. I think Jacob Slavin as an eraser, we're seeing that again in this series. But I think it's also a team-wide recognition. You find the gold laces, you find him in his spot, and you don't let him get there. Just as I thought, I gave the Capitals credit up in Washington for scouting the Hurricanes power play and how good the Hurricanes power play was in the first round against New Jersey. I thought Washington scouted it, made an adjustment. Last 2 games now, the Canes have scored on their power play twice, and it's been they've been important goals for them. So I think the Canes have made their adjustment. The question now is, can Washington make their adjustment? And the reason I think you're going to find them, it's going to be hard for Ovechkin to have a little fuck you game. It's not going to happen in Raleigh because you're not going to get the whistle in Raleigh. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen in Washington. You're going to have 2 or 3 power plays. He's gonna finish on those. That's where he's getting going right now. You know, truth of the matter is Jordan Staal. You know, we love to talk about Jordan Staal. He doesn't score enough goals. He's too old. The construction of this team is such that Jordan Staal is your best defensive player. And again, in Raleigh, he's going to be on the ice with Alexander Ovechkin. And I thought it was interesting that Spencer Carberry in Washington was just kind of like, fuck you. I'm putting my teams on the floor.
Right.
You want to be out there with Staal, even though I have the ability to make sure they're not together.
Yeah.
You know, so there's that too. But I really do think Washington, their depth this year really is remarkable. And that is really why they were able to be second in the NHL in goals scored and first in the East in points because of that depth. And it's funny, you know, I was banging on Politti, or I was pulling my hair out over Steve Politti writing a column that said the Devils need to be more like the Hurricanes with all this depth.
And yet here we are.
And here we are again. You have a team in Washington. It just so happens that Washington's top guy has not been the top guy.
But he will be the top guy.
I'm not dismissing the fact that he could have one of those games. I'm just telling you, it's more likely in Washington with a friendlier whistle on their side.
But you agree it's going to happen. You agree it's going to happen.
I don't. I actually don't.
Really?
I'm telling you, I believe in this second round shit.
Okay.
I do. Because it's a mentality too, because then you smell the blood. The way that they played, the Hurricanes cannot play hockey any better than they did on. What's funny is because we thought the same thing game 1. And it took
overtime.
It was a classic. What I'm saying though, when you win that way, that I am ready to declare that of the Rod Brind'Amour era, the single best game I've ever seen them play, because you had not only Freddie, but then you have that depth scoring.
Fair.
Right? Like you got Svech, top guy, your top guy. You got the Roslovich power play goal, kind of like, oh, wait a second. You mean the guy who we signed on the cheap to replace Steph Nason?
Yeah.
Actually produced?
Yeah.
Right? And then, you know, Robinson, the bargain basement, Canes, let's make the whole plane in a 3rd and 4th liners. Right? So I'm telling you, the way that they played, and to make Ovechkin be a non-factor.
Total non-factor.
He is the single greatest scorer in the history of the game. And they've made him a non-factor now in 3 hockey games.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports phone and curse or don't.
All right, this is from a 919.
How many times has Brent Burns kicked on a break? Bless his soul. The Hall of Famer and out to the future. Ready to go. XO, bro.
You know, it doesn't matter how much they charge for the beer. Somebody got into it at the arena on Saturday night. Good to see.
I like that they're in the building making the call too. That's nice.
I love that. By all means, call the sports phone. I bring this one up because I wanted to piggyback this off the last time I was on OG After Dark. And there was all the discourse about Brent Burns. Yes, he broke his stick. He continues to break his stick. Has there been any Brent Burns discourse after Saturday?
You know,
did anybody have a problem when he was laying out hits?
There was still some in the chat, of course, because it's like a thing now. But
I'm just saying, it just reinforces what we know about this team. You're going to have some nights where Brent Burns is going to be a problem, and you're going to have some other nights where he's actually going to play well, which I thought he played well on Saturday night. And I think
everybody played well.
But everybody
that
did.
was a sun run, my
and
friend.
There's also a health factor too. And I know we're keeping an eye on this, and I know it's all tied into the Alexander Nikishin aspect of this. I know Martin Nook taking a puck.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like he's fine. Jalen Chatfield missed time at the end of the game. He seems fine. So it looks like everybody's a go tonight, which is important.
You say fine, but I promise you, if they play 2 more rounds, at the end, we will get the Jordan Martin cracked 4 ribs in game 3 of the second round that has been playing with.
I know.
Like Kevin Adams broke his foot.
I know.
Blocking a shot. Same with Glenn Wesley.
Classic hockey
thing,
stuff,
man.
Classic hockey.
Let's take a break. Let's take a hockey break. Brought to you by Happy and Hale.
Big thanks to Happy and Hale. Check out the downtown location, the pop-up $10 bowls. You're not going to find a better deal in downtown
Not a
Raleigh
single
for
one
lunch.
anywhere.
And it's super quick. You pop in, get your bowl, and you can go do whatever you want. Take it back to the office or just hang out if the weather's nice. I know the weather's not going to be nice the next couple of days, but when it is, hang outside, $10. You're not going to find a better deal. Now, one last point. Oh, download the app. Use OG25 to save 25% off your online order one time. Before we get out, folks, can we not? I thought sports was supposed to be fun. I thought sports was supposed to be fun.
Saturday was. I mean, other than me struggling and fighting against the Ethernet,
that's fine. That's fine. That's
fun. Saturday was fun.
Hating ass Hayes strikes again, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh no.
Hating ass Hayes came through with the marquee at the Rialto, and it says all are welcome except Tom Wilson, which is very good. It's very good. Shout out to Hayes, man. That's very, very good. I know Barry Straluga, your old colleague at the News and Observer, simply just put it out there. Put it out there on the internet. He wasn't making any sort of commentary. Barry's from around here. He worked here. He understands the dynamics, right? And the amount of people who took that seriously, I ask again, if that's the type of thing that's going to get you to get into arguments with people online and just not accept it for what it is, a good bit of rivalry fun, as if Tom Wilson's literally banned from the Rialto. Okay. Speaking of who's banned and who's not banned, we'll talk about that with Pablo here in a second. We can confirm that's not really true.
My only regret is that Hayes didn't put a T in Tom Wilson. Wilson.
Yes. So I thought that was funny, but we do find ourselves in a situation where people go online and they see stuff like that. They have no sense of humor. And if that's the type of thing that bothers you, this might be a sign for you to put the phone down, go outside, and touch grass, as the kids would say. Just go outside and touch grass.
Housekeeping.
It's brought to you by Enovana. Check them out online at enovana.com. Green cleaning solutions.
If you have mess inside your mansion or trash in your cabana, get it clean with Enovana.
Speaking of the Rialto, tickets are on sale right now for the second annual Sports Podcast Festival. We will have Split Zone Duo, big screen sports, and of course, we will be there. I'm half a mind, given all the things around North Carolina, just to tell Felder, dude, why don't you just join us this year?
Yeah,
hang out with us, and you let it rip on Bill Belichick and UNC.
Wow,
he might go shirtless again.
I would assume, as his way.
So the tickets are on sale right now. The Sports Podcast Festival is taking place August 23rd. That is week 0. There's a couple options for you. If you go to the Rialto's website, you can get an advance ticket for $62.50. You can also do the advance ticket with a shirt for $112.50. It's a long sleeve shirt this year.
Okay. So from our friends at Home Field.
At Home Field. So shout out to Home Field, one of our presenting sponsors for the Sports Podcast Festival. So we're going to have a good time with that. It was a blast last year. I actually ran into somebody at the wedding that I was at. And congratulations to Ryan and Lily. That was the wedding that I went to on Saturday. One of the attendants had gone to the Sports Podcast Festival and they had a blast. Like, oh yeah, man, that was great. And with the Split Zone Duo crew, you're going to have a blast as well. So go to the Rialto.com and get your tickets today. Take advantage of all that advanced savings, including with the long sleeve t-shirt, which should be a good one. Honestly, it should be a good one. Now, speaking of the wedding, I thought you would find this amusing. And I'm guessing that Ben over at home at Roback is going to enjoy this. I went to the rehearsal dinner on Friday. Let me explain something to you. because I wore my City of Oaks.
You did.
I did. I wore the City of Oaks
Nice.
polo. Well, first and foremost, Caleb saw me. My older son saw me in the polo before we left, and he said, "What the hell are you wearing?" So he's like, what is this fit? I go, I know, dude. You never see me in a polo. I get it. He's like, that's certainly a choice. I was like, thanks, buddy. But I knew I'd fit in.
Oh yeah.
Dude, honestly, the rehearsal dinner should have been sponsored by Roback.
It can be.
Yes. And shout out to my guy, Brian, because he was wearing a Roback. I'm like, please tell me you used OG20 as a promo code. He goes, no.
Oh.
I said, well, guess what? It's time to use that promo code OG20.
Yes.
Another person at the rehearsal dinner said, oh, I've used 2 emails already.
Yep.
So it's all there for you. It's the trick. So go to roback.com, use the promo code OG20, and you too can look like one of the main characters in Morehead City for a wedding.
Yeah, I was sweating profusely on Saturday night trying to work the technology, but I had my peaches on, so I stayed cool.
Saw that. I saw that
I
you had
stayed cool. And shouts to Doug Wharf,
yeah,
who I saw on the second floor on Saturday.
Mhm.
He walks by me. I was wearing my orange Tennessee zip. He walks by. He goes, "That's not Roback." He's like, "Are you feeling okay?" I was like, "Don't worry. I'll have Roback on during the proper show, sir."
Hey, give Doug some leeway. He's a very, very busy man with all the things that are happening over at Lenovo Center. Which
Did you see the set list from last night?
I have not looked at it.
Elderly woman behind a counter in a small town, still in play for Tuesday. I think I'm going to be in now.
Oh, are you going Tuesday?
I'm pretty sure. now.
Okay. Big shouts to one of our listeners, Chris, who reached out and is helping us out get some tickets. I will not be going. I am sending my father-in-law and my son.
Okay.
Good grandfather, grandson bonding.
Yeah, wholesome.
Very, very wholesome content. Very wholesome
Unlike
content.
your Marilyn Manson, Trent Reznor with your dad and the
Yeah.
there shouldn't be any of that.
I don't think there's going to be a repeat of the 1994 self-destruct tour moment that me and my dad had. I don't think Eddie Vedder is going to do any of that at that show.
No.
But yeah, with all the things that are going on over at Lenovo Center, comedy shows, playoff games, Pearl Jam shows, you better be equipped. You got a tailgate. Our friends at Breeze Through are going to come through for that. So head on over to breezethrough.com and you can find out all their locations. Download the app to save money. And OG Light will be at the Breeze Through here shortly.
I was going to say, I just want to give people an update on this because I had one person, our guy Joey, reach out to me and say, "Hey, Joey from Garner, come over and say, hey, I went over to the Breeze Through and it's not there yet."
Not yet.
And I said, the target date is the 20th.
Mm-hmm.
That is the target date, May 20th. And to answer another question, will it be available at all Breeze Throughs? No. It will be available at our Breeze Through on Trinity and Edwards Mill. May 20th is a target. When we can solidly confirm, I will update. But right now, I'll write it in pencil.
Fair enough.
20th. And there might even be an Ovies and Giglio end cap. Snoop Dogg, John Gruden style.
I love it. Also, big thanks to Two Roosters. We talk about Jacob Slavin a lot. You should probably get a Sunday too while you're at the games. Slavin Sunday is easily the best deal in the building.
It's really not even close.
So, are we closer on a flavor yet?
I think
It's your Super Bowl, dude. I'm letting you cook on this one.
I think simplest is best.
Okay,
but I guess the question is Reese's peanut butter cups.
No, give me
Reese's
the ripple
pieces.
No, I want the peanut butter ripple.
No, the peanut butter ripple's in there.
Yeah.
Then
give me the cup. No, go. I want all in on peanut butter. So go peanut butter cup.
How about the cups that have the pieces in them?
Ooh, I didn't think about that one.
And do we need anything else? Because I love a nut.
I don't think we need anything else.
Okay,
that sounds good.
See, I like that.
It's gonna be chocolate, right?
It's
or vanilla.
No, Valinda with the peanut butter ripple. And then we add either the peanut butter cups, the Reese's pieces, both, or the cups with the pieces. Feels maybe cost prohibitive if we did.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I guess we got to ask Jared. Either way, we got a flavor that's
It's going to be peanut buttery. Yes.
It's very, very peanut buttery, which is very, very OG.
How about this? Can we double ripple? Is that a thing?
Yeah.
If we double ripple, maybe we go peanut butter, chocolate, ripple, vanilla ice cream, Reese's Pieces / cups.
I like that. That sounds good.
I cannot imagine having the opportunity 5 days a week to watch what is happening with Bill Belichick.
Every day, we get to talk about this. And joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline, Pablo Torre. Pablo Torre Finds Out is the podcast. And Pablo, man, hey, thanks for the time. You really made some waves here locally on Friday with your Jordon Hudson, Bill Belichick deep dive, which I thoroughly enjoyed.
I've spent so much. And by the way, thank you for having me, guys. Honor to be on the line with you. I have been spending so much time, I guess, simulating what your lives must be like these days. And I am so sorry. I am sorry for all of it in that regard. As much as I've loved it and find this endlessly fascinating and a little bit morbidly compelling, it's just it's the tip of an iceberg. I think not to be so far foreboding about it, but it's wild.
I love it, man. I'm in the content business, and this has been not. I mean, it adds to the argument that I always make that the triangle. Say what you want about major markets, no knock. We can get really weird here in the triangle with our universities. Before we get into the elephant in the room, the conversation about was Jordon Hudson banned? Was she not banned? Is it semantics? X, Y, Z. I did want to commend you and give you an opportunity to hear what you're trying to accomplish with episodes like this. I mean, the best way I could put it is you're doing a here's what I'm hearing gossip talk that really is like a pill pocket for journalism. Your dog won't take the medicine, just coat it in peanut butter, and that way they'll do it because people don't read, right? So this is kind of what you're doing. I had a magazine feature buddy of mine say, yeah, man, it really is like a magazine feature just in podcast form. So that's what you're trying to accomplish here. You're sourced up 11 sources and spices, if you will.
Yeah. Melt and cheese on some broccoli.
Right.
The broccoli being the palace intrigue and power, struggle behind the scenes, the cheese being all of the gossip stuff. But you're right. Look, man, the brief on who I am and what I do. I'm a journalist who will do episodes in which we investigate the literal director of the FBI and his rec league hockey team, which was last week or 2 weeks ago or whatever it was. We'll do award-winning things, blah, 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 blah. But this does not mean I'm above what I find to be a truly compelling story. And what happens when you devote your time as an investigative reporter to trying to get to the bottom of this? You meet a lot of people and a lot of weird people, and you guys are the least weird of them all. So again,
we'll see. We'll revisit that conversation at the end. All right, let's get to the whole band thing.
Yeah.
Before your episode dropped on Friday, Joe and I had heard similar things leading up to the podcast, that there had been a conversation with the board of trustees and Bill Belichick, or people around Bill Belichick. Essentially, the block was too hot, given the CBS interview, Jordon being a presence at everything, and all that. John Pryor, who's the BOT chair at UNC, I was told by a source that he's getting hammered by current trustees and former trustees about the circus that he invited to Chapel Hill with Bill Belichick. And then after your podcast dropped, all the things sounded similar about, hey man, like, can we chill out with the Jordon Hudson stuff? But you went so far to say, or at least in the podcast description, that she was banned. She wasn't around. She wasn't allowed at the facility anymore. And following up on that, before UNC even dropped a statement countering the podcast, I had heard that's not true. I had one source tell me, well, Jordon was around the building this week. And another source told me that 2 players confirmed that as well to him. So what exactly is happening here with the dynamic between Bill Belichick, Jordon Hudson, UNC, and people clearly not wanting her there, and how they control that?
Yeah, so happy to get to talk about this with you guys. This is a power struggle. And it goes to the very top of the university, top of the athletics department, top of the football program. And this is about, I believe, at this phase of the conversation, spin.
Mm-hmm.
And I am not saying that they have armed guards pointing guns at Jordon Hudson. What I'm saying, though, is that 2 high-level sources in the building have explicitly said after this big meeting, she is not welcome here. She will not be around here. She cannot be around here. And things are changing now. And so I think the semantic argument about a ban, I stand by the term. Now, whether it's being policed is, I think, where the rubber is meeting the road. The inner circle around Bill, his family. The big change has been that there is now by the way, it's just very funny when CBS Sunday Morning is the PR nightmare. They were trying to do a puff piece. All of this happened.
This ain't 60 Minutes.
Oh my God, dude.
CBS said they were supposed to be light and fluffy. Their logo was as a happy sun, Pablo. It is not the ticking dread of 60 Minutes.
They went to his high school in Annapolis, Maryland, hoping to do like the walk and talk. So I confirmed so many details about what that actual set was like that day. They were trying to get to the walk and talk. They were trying to set up Bill to answer the obvious question about his girlfriend, who was cited in the acknowledgments as his idea mill and muse, right? Also relevantly to bring it back to the building, the same person, Jordon Hudson, who, requested in documented email form. The Athletic got this first because Carolina wouldn't fulfill my FOIA requests. And I'm a little bitter about that, but fair enough. The Athletic got it, was demanding to be CC'd on every email with the coach. And so when it comes to just the question of what did they want to stop, what was different now with CBS such that they wanted to officially say you can't be in the building anymore? I don't know if you guys have the PR statement that Carolina released after my episode came out, but I think it's notable, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, that is the first time they had said actually all of the things in that statement for the first time with any amount of clarity. The meeting that you guys had heard about that I reported wasn't publicly discussed. Their incentive, I should just be very clear about this, very blunt, is after Belichick lied about how the CBS whole thing was set up, in which there was an agreement, we were not supposed to talk about this. That is a lie. There was no agreement. Again, puff piece. They actually talked about this with the publicist and CBS, that they would ask about this. Jordon out on the program, it seems, about that. Now what they're trying to do, because of course, and I get this, it's May, right? It's May. You got recruiting. You have a building that's about to leave for the summer, right? You're about to go home. And what they're trying to say is there is nothing to see here. We got it under control. In fact, here it is. And the statement, here it is. You guys can read it. And I think we should probably just parse it for a second. I got the statement.
If you're watching on YouTube, I got the statement up right now, and it's from Robbie Pickerel. While Jordon Hudson is not an employee at the university or Carolina Athletics, she is welcome to the Carolina football facilities. Jordon will continue to manage all activities related to Coach Belichick's personal brand outside of his responsibilities for Carolina football and the university. Very short statement, but I know that you and Mike Florio have parsed that immensely.
I mean, Jordon Hudson is not an employee at the university or Carolina Athletics is the first phrase. And the big kicker here is that yes, she will work for Coach Belichick in his personal capacity, personal brand, outside of his responsibilities for Carolina football and the university. So just as a matter of let's just talk about this logically, right? You're a PR department trying to say this journalist who has no sources is making stuff up. Why include any of that? Why? You could have just said, this is totally wrong. She's welcome, period. The reason they included that is because there is a giant 5-alarm fire behind the scenes that people don't want to admit, because it's disastrous if they do. Man, you didn't have to say any of that, but they just know that there is, in fact, smoke here, not to be all papal about it, but yes, there's smoke rising to the sky and lots of people are noticing, and it is the inner circle of Belichick, which does not want her around, right? Does not want her there, says she is not welcome, says she is disastrous for what they're trying to accomplish. It is Bill's own family. And now it is, in fact, the people who brought him in over the top of the athletics department at that chancellor level who are saying, whoa. We hired New England Bill Belichick. And what would New England Bill Belichick say about Carolina Bill Belichick when it comes to, distraction, when it comes to doing your job? That to me says, again, look, the episode, I think, is the context in which that statement must be understood, because it's not like I dropped out of the sky on this. And forgive me for just sort of going on about this, guys, because I want to explain just how it is that I'm here. Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Why is this guy who's not in the triangle on top of this? It's because it all started when in February, I broke the story of how it is that Jordon Hudson got into the Super Bowl ad, right? So in that ad, what I learned, what I reported is that she was the one negotiating with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, who had no idea what was happening. She appointed herself Bill Belichick's agent, got into the commercial, got paid, and Affleck and Damon, I can very, very safely say to you, still marvel at this today. And so I broke that story. And what happened was the floodgates opened behind the scenes in terms of, you think that's crazy, you should hear about this. And when that started happening, when this became to be a story, not about an age gap relationship, but a story about power being wielded very clumsily behind the scenes, I just pulled on every available thread. I got 11 sources that I ended up talking to who dealt with her in similar capacities. And then the CBS thing happened, and people were like, frankly, behind the scenes, you should know that we're at an inflection point right now. And what happens next in terms of whether she is actually allowed to be here in the way that I thought we all agreed she wasn't allowed to be here anymore. This says a lot about where the story is going to go.
Yeah, I was going to say, my question would be your understanding the not allowed part, because quite frankly, I mean, just to be transparent with you, we're not doing a fucking radio bit here. We're not having you on here to jump you or anything. I'm not going to pretend you listen to our show either, but I was critical of what you did on Friday in the very specific sense that, my background here at the newspaper was I've covered when people are actually like legitimately banned from a building, right? Like I'm not saying you didn't do this. I saw your point about the FOIA request, but like there's a way to ban someone from the building, like proper, like, right? It's a disassociation letter. Obviously that didn't happen here. So my point was more of like, hey man, you did a lot of good stuff here. You probably took away from it by using the kind of flashy banned word in the tweet. You know what I mean? And you understand that as someone, when you talk to 11 people, you're obviously not, you're not just throwing shit against the wall. You're actually trying to make an effort here. So, but I want to be transparent with you that I was critical of that. I was critical of you for that.
Oh, I'm an adult. I'm an adult who's reporting things. And by the way, the reason I come on here is not because I thought that you guys fully co-signed everything. It's actually wanted to explain why it is.
That's what I'm getting at. So you say, when you say banned or not allowed, let's just say not allowed. How about that?
Yeah,
that's coming from not Robbie, not Bubba Cunningham, not really the athletic department, but a higher level trustee, maybe even Lee Roberts type, not to betray your sources, but this is from outside of that athletic bubble. They're saying to Bill, hey, let's make sure that she's doing whatever role you have her, ear horn for, instead of this seemingly omnipresent, figure that she's become.
She's not on the team. She's not a part of the team. She isn't in our building.
Yeah.
So by the way, on the ban thing, it's a really good point, because I think I did underestimate the degree to which a ban as a legal weapon, so to speak, actually is quite real. And that is me, by the way, speaking to a national audience as opposed to a very specific institutional memory around what it means when an athletics department, by the way, is caught in a web of dishonesty and has to actually do things like have security guard the door. So a totally fair distinction. All I will say in terms of like why the colloquialism of ban felt appropriate to me is when someone is told, or at least someone's boyfriend is told, she can't be here. She's not welcome here. Not a part of the program. She can't be doing work for us anymore. She can't be in the building on the field anymore. That's why ban felt appropriate, but I also understand that there's a nuance here. And frankly, I am regretful that the upshot of this is focused on the semantics as opposed to the story, which is there is a power struggle now, and you're watching it unfold in real time.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to get into one of the really nice facts that you had in there about the wrong birthday. Because I
think that's the biggest deal.
I thought when you asked Katie that question, and it was like, have you ever put your own wrong birthday? I was like, she did what now? And the thought process of like by 1 year just made me think it's still like, do you really think there's someone out there like Vanilla Ice and David Bowie being like, yeah, but ding, ding, ding is totally 01 and we're ding, 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 00. Like, my brain kind of sort of, Pablo, exploded hearing that detail. And I'm like, I think he's right. And it's because of this premise. And it does, I think also for those who haven't listened to the episode, Pablo Torre finds out, I encourage you to listen to the entire episode and not just, get excited over one word on a tweet. I feel like Mark Gottfried right now. I'm dealing with Mark Gottfried again.
Your traumas are I apologize for diminishing.
They run deep on a beat. When you said FOIA rejections, Joe's like, I can already tell Joe's like, buddy,
man.
join the club.
Yeah, I get it.
But I think like the idea that we met on a plane now, all of a sudden she's 19, as you point out, because of this date confusion or kerfuffle, but may perhaps an intentional sleight of hand. And that she's somehow maybe sitting on the story for a reality show also kind of tracks, right? I mean, these are all things that you came up with, and I was fascinated by the wrong day. I mean, we all know our fucking birthday, dude. Like, I don't know if you have kids, Pablo, but when you go and drop them off at school, you got to tell them their birthday, their address, their phone number. They got to know all these things. These are things that are drilled into you at a very young age.
It's kind of the thing that the government asks you when they're trying to verify who you literally are. Which feels like very on the nose for this story. But just to clarify why this thing felt like the end of The Usual Suspects to me, right? Is that as the mug is falling to the ground and you realize, oh no.
Okie, Illinois.
Yeah, exactly. You realize that this was typed in, by the way, just to be very clear about the context for everybody and why this fits into the larger picture of what's happening behind the scenes. This was an internal document shared to dozens of people. And it was specifically the UNC wives and girlfriends, coaches, wives and coaches, girlfriends, entering the basic stuff for like a directory. Heading into the summer, let's all get to know each other. Who are your kids? What are their names? Where you live? What's your birthday? So we can send you like messages, like happy birthday stuff. And this was not a like, oh no, the default was set to 00. It was not a pull down menu. This was an enter it in yourself on your phone, like you type it in. And the mug falling and cracking to the floor, revealing something like the truth was, look at your keyboard. How close are the 0 and the 1?
They're on opposite sides.
They're
for those who are envisioning it. They're on the opposite side.
The most opposite. They couldn't be farther.
Yeah.
And that's a bit of the, like, you did it to yourself here, Jordan, kind of a thing. Like, she's on record, and I hate that I'm also this sort of investigative journalist, but she's on record at the Miss Maine competition last year saying, Jordon Hudson, 22, Hancock.
Right.
This competition, crucially, was held in March. Her birthday is in April, right? So you do the reverse engineering. You say, okay, February 2021 is when she met Bill Belichick on that plane. That makes her 19 years old, right? Oh, also, now, in this case, when she's presenting herself to her, I mean, I will call them peers. But I think that the fear and concern around this entire building has been, they're all being treated like her employees, which is a very real thing.
I have sources that have told me that, and you know this about college athletics, there's a part to this where you have a role to play in making sure that all the boosters are happy. She's the main character. You're entering a world where the boosters are the main character, and that is clashing right now.
Yes. And so when she, again, I can't legally say that this was deliberately dishonest, but I will merely say it's very implausible that it would be accidental based on the facts presented herein, Your Honors. I would submit that this is something that reeked of deception.
Yeah.
And it would be one thing if it was just the one thing and it wasn't the everything. Yeah. If it wasn't the spin around the CBS stuff, if it wasn't, by the way, the emails behind the scenes, it wasn't how she is conducting herself in meetings, on the field. I mean, by the way, you guys, look, I repeatedly, and I don't know if I made a big enough deal of this on the show because there was just too much, but the whole idea of like you cosplaying as the first lady of football. Did Miss Terry ever do this at Alabama?
She was only referenced, right? Like
Sally.
Nick Saban
Mac
would
Brown's wife.
Mac Brown's wife would be referenced and things like that, which actually that gets me to where I wanted to go next with this. I get, and I have heard, just like you have heard, that there's enough on the football side where they just want her to go away. I get it. Except, and I jotted this down when I was re-listening to this, the you won't be hearing from Jordan. I believe that's what one of your sources told you, right? Do I have that right?
Yep.
What does this source or anybody that you've talked to, what makes you think that she won't be heard from given her history? I mean, to me, we're talking about the Dunkin' Donuts commercial. The one that was more fascinating was the underdog one where she decided to go, that's the star. I'm going to insert myself. She's going to find a way to insert herself. So what everything that you've heard, what makes people think in that building that she is going to go away or not be heard from? We just got a big, it's the most read story on the Washington Post sports section right now. Shout out to Bill Jordan, Mix 101.5 from back in the day. Bill Belichick, Jordon Hudson, he was at the Miss Maine. That's the most read story on the Washington Post right now. So these two are linked. And to borrow a phrase from Bomani Jones, that man is very close to just loving her out loud if push comes to shove. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. I know what you're saying. I think what you are seeing here is the power struggle in real time. So very fascinating, right? CBS interview happens. Jordon Hudson posts that screenshot of an email. By the way, I can tell you,
Taylor Swift. That's another thing I wanted to say. She was born in the fires of Swiftum. You want to talk about main character? She thinks she's a mastermind.
Yes, and by the way, and that she is exacting revenge for things that have been done to her. Right. So all of this has that element too.
What has been done to her?
She's in her early 20s, Joe. That's how we think back then.
I know Pablo wants to make a point here, but I think
Yeah.
one of the really important things that I took away from the episode was this idea of Bill Belichick as not an emperor with no clothes, but the Matt Patricia line and the other people that you mentioned, that he's kind of surrounded himself. And the real reason Jordan has come in and become a tour de force in his life is because so many other people in his life cower in his presence.
Yes.
And she's come in and been in many ways, he probably views her as some sort of intellectual or force equal. And I thought that was a really good point, because you think in your head, I'm not going to be crude here, but like, how good must the sex really be to let this woman take over your life, right? Like that's the baseline thought when you see somebody in a relationship with someone who's 50 years younger. But I think there's more. I don't think that's it. I think it is this idea.
It's the Robert Kraft idiot savant line.
Yeah, I think it's this idea that someone came in and actually pushed him and told him that he was fucking naked, right? Like, because I don't understand otherwise what he's seeing in this. Because to your point, Pablo, in the episode, it's eroding his legacy. And I think it's eroding any last shred of possibility that he has of getting back to the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also, sorry.
No, go ahead.
My conclusion from your episode was that last year of these underdog commercials and Dunkin' Donuts and letting her, do all of these things, he said to himself, okay, I can't get back to the NFL, but I'm not doing another year of this bullshit. I'm going to go coach.
Yeah.
And even if it means I got to go to college, I'm going to go coach.
So
that's what happened.
So you guys have actually sort of like neatly segued me to what I was going to say, actually, because the question of why do people believe that things might be different now? It's because of what you just said. He just wants to coach. The distractions have become too much. They've seeped in. The whole insulation that he benefited from when he was, ensconced by Lombardi and Patricia, McDaniels, and all of these guys, that was broken apart. And he realized, oh no, this is getting in the way of football. That's why her being on the field, trying to set up a microphone thing, which was not subtle, by the way, what she was doing. It was totally unnecessary. They have a person, by the way, I was told, who was right there ready to do it. She wanted to go do it and be on camera, right? Again, not surprising, not shocking, not even really in dispute. But that whole thing of, I'm a football guy, I do football. Bears Nigerian is at BC because I couldn't get an NFL job, so got a job to get, employment. And therefore, there was this vacuum in which none of the guys in his inner circle could fill. By the way, this new job, public person, media guy, person who needs to appeal to young people, person who needs to be on the internet. There has been a lot of, I'm not saying that there is some Biden in Belichick, right? Although there have been auto pen jokes. I can also just tell you that there have been. I am saying that when it comes to his cabinet, the people he's trusted, they have not steered him the right way. Yeah. And now the whole thing, and this is why I published it the time that I did, there is there has been a real movement to get her out. And so when it comes to what happened post CBS when I was referencing that screenshot of the email, by the way, which is in response. I can clarify this. This wasn't in the episode, but I just know this because I reported it, but didn't use it. That was in response to a Wall Street Journal excerpt that was published, a very positive thing that they flipped out about because it was, and again, the irony of this is just too rich. It was the part where he says, I bleeped that up.
Yeah.
That's the part. And he was like, nah, can we change that? Right. And he didn't like it. That was what that email was in response to, which is to say yet another positive literal excerpt from the thing that you guys made, Bill and Jordan, that then they turned into a Taylor Swift inflected crusade. And one more bit of just information on like what happened after that, right? So Belichick, I live in New York. Belichick gave this talk at NYU, the business school, about the book. And everyone was waiting to see Jordan. And Jordan wasn't there. And that was the pretext for me publishing the episode. Oh my God, people around Bill, family, program at UNC said, things are actually changing. The threatened video that was screenshotted in that Instagram post after that statement I referenced, that was like 36 minutes or whatever, she threatened full statement coming soon. She never released it.
Never happened, Jim.
And so there had been this swinging of the pendulum. And maybe to your guys' point, though, because of the nature of man, as much as this man in specific, it is a pendulum swinging back and forth as opposed to a change. Totally valid to be very skeptical about what that source's perspective is.
So it was announced he's going to do an interview with Michael Strahan on Friday on Good Morning America.
You can't get enough of these morning shows.
Well, here's the thing, Pablo. Do you think that this is a reboot of sorts? This is the, just like that commercial I think you described or your source described as a hard launch for the relationship.
Yeah.
Is this yet another hard launch for Bill Belichick and what we're going to see going forward? Because this ties into my last question.
Yeah.
Do you think
I think this is desperation.
Okay.
I think that this is somebody knowing that he needs to answer the most obvious questions very clearly. And I cannot speak to the kind of investigative journalist that Michael Strahan is. I know they become buddies since the Giants beat them, in the Super Bowl. I know that's also true. But some of the hard questions I would want asked are along the lines of the roadmap that my episode followed. What is her job now? How much will she be around the building? Was she 19 when you met her? How does your family feel about this? How do the people who work for you feel about this? How does the University of North Carolina feel about this? Just to start, off the top of my head, right? Before I get into any sort of like very complicated, more strategic questions, just like I would be fascinated to know. And by the way, in all of these cases, I should say, request a comment from North Carolina, email Jordon Hudson directly, request a comment from Bill Belichick. They don't want to answer any of this because they know the answers are bad. They know they're unbelievably embarrassing. So that's what I expect to see is an attempt at spinning this further. And they would love to talk about, the one thing that they could maybe refute, which is, look, here's a picture of Jordan in the building. Aha. Yeah. And really that is the tip of the iceberg, as I keep on saying.
So how do you think this ends for Bill Belichick? Because, this idea that, you got June 1st looming context. His $10 million buyout goes down to $1 million, but it's $1 million to somebody who wants to hire him. And as we have established, the NFL does not want him. I mean, I think Robert Kraft has made that abundantly clear by going to Atlanta and saying, you don't want this guy, right? So who's going to take him right off the bat? That's off the table because I can't see in this current environment that somebody wants to come in and buy him out at $1 million. So how do you think this goes the rest of the summer?
I think June 1st is a really, really, really important date. It was weird before any of this, right? It was weird that it was like that before any of this. It gave him an escape hatch from the very start, which said a lot, I think, about the sort of marriage of convenience that was hiring this guy. And basically, it said, let's all give this a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's what it was. It was, let's see how it goes. We've heard a lot of terrible things about you. This is not what they said to him explicitly, but this is what it says. We've heard a lot of terrible things about you. People in our building don't even really want to do this, but you're the greatest coach of all time, known for discipline, discretion, privacy, and defensive genius. And then I think come June 1st, the question he has to ask himself, this is Bill Belichick now, is, am I still in charge the way that I was told I would be?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the power struggle, right? How much of a red line is Jordon Hudson? And I think that none of us should be confident that they make it past June 1st. I can't say that. I'm not reporting that this is going to fall apart by June 1st. I'm just saying that I think all of us, by the way, who paid attention to this, but especially you guys down there, and I've heard from so many people since this thing came out, how much has not yet been said, how much messier it is. And if you are the people in charge of a otherwise proud university trying to overcome scandals in which there were literal security guards banning people from buildings, the question is this really worth it if we're going to go, it was 6 games, right? 6 wins last year, 7. Can we do better than that? And is it worth it? Is this worth it? Is the question that everyone has to ask.
Schedule's easy enough, but
you're on a TCU.
Yeah, I don't know.
I would welcome that at this point.
At this point, even a loss to TCU you would welcome, because at least it has you talking about football.
Fair.
I guess the last thing we can close with, because I know Joe's run into some FOIA frustrations. I don't know if you
I still want to see Stephen Belichick's contract. I don't have it.
Do you guys want a fusion dance on a FOIA here?
Oh my God, dude!
And try to get Stephen Belichick's contract, because I think that's another story that is being.
Love that.
Pablo, I'll debase myself in front of you here, because I made a rookie journalistic mistake. Listeners of our show know that I have a relationship with Bubba Cunningham. And so I saw him before Carolina played NC State, and so in basketball. And I asked him, I go, so what does the language look like in Bill's contract that says that his son is the coach in waiting? And he looked at me. He goes, Joe, there is no language in Bill's contract that says Stephen is the coach in waiting. I was like, oh, okay.
However,
it takes me some time, and I'm like, no, wait a second, Giglio. It wouldn't say it in Bill's contract. It would say it in Stephen's contract. So I have FOIA'd Stephen's contract, which I do not have. So
yeah, I am shocked that they didn't fulfill that request either.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you too, Pablo. The other one that I was told from a source who would know, as part of the early negotiations, was that Jordon would have a place in the Keenan Flagler Business School. And if you know anything about the Keenan Flagler Business School and the prestige that goes along with that, there are not many Bridgewater State grads.
I was going to say
Flagler Business School.
I
was told that was a very legitimate part of the early negotiations. So
so 2 emotions course through me as I hear you say that. One is the empathy for a fellow FOIA denied reporter. The second is the self-loathing that can only accompany a guy who went to fancy school, who has not been able to say what I have learned about Bridgewater State as the birthplace for this mastermind. Dude, that B school is legit, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's legit. This is not I dare say there has been some overpromising, and the delivery has been mind-blowing in terms of what they've gotten for their troubles, for the highest paid public employee in your fine state, man.
Yep.
But
by a wide margin.
And
a wide margin.
And that, I think, I don't look, politics, they're crazy, guys. I don't know if you've noticed. We live in wild times. I'm just saying, if you're in North Carolina and your academic reputation is being eroded by this, and also you're drawing attention to the fact that, why are we letting schools like this pay guys like this much when there is a 19-year-old that they met who's now being elevated, it seems, reportedly, by you to some position at the business school? You just inspired me to make some calls.
Okay. Good. Hey, man. It's I jotted down, like, why are we so fascinated by this? But we just spent 35 minutes talking about it. I think we understand why we're fascinated by this. As you say, it's the power dynamics, and watching a legend. And we had, I used to do radio with a former coach at ECU, Steve Logan. And he always said, football ends badly. Not everybody gets to write their own story. Even Tom Brady has seen some of those, if you want to like have a little bit of a compare contrast with these two guys, he's even regretting some of the decisions he's made post-football, right down to that Netflix special, right? And I think Bill, like any other coach, and we've seen this, sometimes they don't know what to do without football.
Yeah.
They just don't. And I think that's a big reason why we're fascinated by
He
this.
could have been a lacrosse coach somewhere in Annapolis or Nantucket or wherever.
I will say
that's
this,
what he should have done.
I will
honestly.
say this. We'll introduce you to a phrase, Pablo. It's called triangle good. Okay. And when it comes to football in the triangle, I've been doing this 25 years. Joe's been doing it for longer. And it's like every time somebody at NC State comes in, we're like, we're going to overtake Carolina. There's Spider-Man pointing me. They're the same freaking program, no matter what, right? And I've always argued, if you want to prove how good of a coach you are, now it's not doing it without Tom Brady, which we understand Bill has failed to do. Urban Meyer, come on down here. Come here. Nick Saban, take the Duke job. Let's see what you can do with that. You whooped Duke. Now, why don't you try to win with Duke? And Bill Belichick is, I can't complain. Like, I can't sit here. People who are like, Ovies, the state Wolfpack guy and you's coming out. I'm like, no, I want to see if one of these legends can get one of these triangle football programs that is historically 500 worth a damn. And right now we're not off to a great start.
Can I, you guys, and what I don't have time for is the people who are like, this story's beneath you. No, this is one of the great stories that I've ever seen. And it's because of everything that I think is hopefully clear if you've made it this far into me gas bagging and taking up more of your time. But the one thing I'll just point out, right, because it at some point it becomes a liability question. Yeah. And one thing that I didn't get to put into my episode that'll just leave you as another mug crashing to the ground. Because you mentioned Brady and it made me think of this. Remember during the Tom Brady roast when he referenced that ring cam joke about Bill Belichick? Do you guys remember this? Mm-hmm. So the ring cam reference is to actual footage of Bill Belichick on a porch that now we know through later reporting. By the way, we don't have time for the whole real estate part of this.
Dude, that's its own thing.
The financial part of it, though, is how I see Carolina getting out of it.
So this is why I bring it up. There happens to be this real estate venture that Jordon Hudson is running, reportedly with the support of Bill Belichick. And anyway, in one of those places, it seems, there was a ring cam in which a shirtless Bill Belichick wanders kind of like a lost bear out onto the porch. And this gets leaked and winds up in the Daily Mail. And this is the joke Tom Brady made. Ha, 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 ha. The question that people around Bill Belichick have been wondering for a very long time is, how did they get that footage? How does one from a property owned by Jordon Hudson, reportedly, how does that footage get out? And if in fact that footage was maybe monetized, how then one might prepare for other pieces of footage that might exist? How else would one get such tape? Intimate, private, disturbing video of an almost 70-year-old man, no idea what's happening, being taped without his knowledge. Just seems like something I would want to be on top of if I was the University of North Carolina.
You're on that Brian Windhorst. Why is that? Pablo Torre. Pablo Finds Out is the podcast. Check it out. It's an entertaining listen. We appreciate your time and coming on. You did not gas bag because we're just as interested in this kind of stuff as you are. And I'm guessing there will be a follow-up to this later in the summer. We're looking forward to it.
I have a feeling we will talk again.
Well, that was a fun conversation with Pablo.
It was. It's productive.
Very productive conversation. Yeah. I think we all kind of understand. I think we're all united by the fascination of this Belichick Jordon Hudson story.
Yeah, I do think he has a unique perspective because it's you're not here. That New York, a lot of advertising comes out of New York. I think he's I don't think we can argue with those sources and what he was saying, and then obviously some interesting stuff there too. With the birth date thing to me.
Yeah, no, to me, as I said, that's one of the more underappreciated aspects of it. Speaking of things you can't argue with, closing costs are silly.
Yeah.
Why would you pay closing costs on a refinance or when you're trying to finance a home purchase? Contact our friends at Miller Lending. Check them out online at millerlending.com/theog. That's our landing page. You take that thing to closing and there's going to be a Raleigh Wine Shop gift basket in for you. You want to call them and start the conversation? 919-447-3377. Tell them we sent you. And when I say there's no arguing with the silliness of closing costs is a bet. It's a hedge that these rates are never going to fluctuate. You're never going to get a better deal, and you're going to have it for 8 years because that's typically what it takes to break even on that. That's not how the real world works. Typically, people will refinance about every 4 years. See where the math ain't mathing on that one? So don't pay closing costs. Stay flexible with Miller Lending. So if you find yourself in a situation where you need to consolidate debt, and 2025 might be that year where you got to consolidate that debt, hey, Miller Lending is going to look out for you as Joe raises his hand and you just got that done. So,
and they did. So
contact them today. MillerLending.com/VOG. Speaking of homes, on my drive back from the Atlantic Beach, Morehead City area, I was greeted with the Hometown Realty billboards.
Made you feel alive, didn't it?
It did.
It was comforting.
It also made me go, should we get a billboard?
Ooh.
I think we should get a billboard.
I'll be honest. That was one of the things I was disappointed about when I had left the N&O and went to the other place. And they were just kind of like, yeah, cool. And I was like, oh, okay. So we're not going to promote the show in any way, shape, or form.
No, there was a ribbon board in the arena.
In the arena.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a thing.
But you know what? We can do it now. We can do whatever we want.
That's called trade. But
I know. Well, trade. We're not familiar with such things. So yeah, I think maybe there's trade for a billboard.
Huh.
People going to and from the beach all summer?
Huh.
Who says no? There's even the electronic ones.
I know.
Neither here nor there. What you need to do.
Barry probably knows the billboard guy. He's got a ton of them.
Might be time to talk to Barry about that.
Ton of them.
But you need to talk to Hometown Realty about buying and selling your house. You can do it with confidence. Check them out online at myhtr.com. Again, that's myhtr.com. Guaranteed offers are out there. You're just leaving money on the table. Those cash offers are really beneficial to them, not you.
Yeah. Don't be stupid.
Don't be silly like that. And then we're talking about financing. We're talking about buying homes. You got to take that thing to close. You need somebody to represent you. That's our friends at Whitaker and Hamer come through. WH.lawyer is the website. Check them out. Attorneys and counselors at law. They can help you with small matters like that. They can help you with matters for your business. So contact them at WH.lawyer. And again, we're talking about homes, auto, all that fun stuff. Got to get insurance. Make sure you save money on insurance. And if you've had a long time insurer and you don't know if your rate's a good rate or a bad rate, just start the conversation with our guy, Matt Davis, over at State Farm in Garner. InsureGarner.com is the website. 919-779-8277, Joe.
I was so scrambled on Saturday. Matt texted me and I'm like, man, Ovies is not here. I'm in a whirlwind here. So we'll have to go see him tonight.
Yeah.
Because that is also a way of just, Joe, it's okay.
It's okay. Chill out.
It's going to be okay.
It'll be fine.
So we'll go see him tonight too.
All right, let's get out of here with some Hey Joe, shall we? Let's go to the OG Sports phone.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports phone and curse or don't.
Of course, the OG Sports phone is brought to you by Nature's Relief. Check them out online. naturesreliefhempstore.com, RELEAF hempstore.com. What are you chuckling about?
I really needed, if my constitution could handle the Nature's Relief without sleeping,
yeah,
I could have used a gummy on Saturday.
Okay.
It's just like,
I'm back. It's all good. You can go back to being you tonight. Let's go to a 703.
Hey there, Joes. Just wanted to use this time to do a birthday shout out to Skilo, aka Freddie, my husband. His birthday's Monday, and then we're headed down to see the Caps play the Hurricanes. So he's a big Hurricane fan, so I hope he has a good birthday. But I grew up in the DC metro area, so I'm a Caps fan. So I don't want him to have too good of a birthday, but I wanted to give him a shout out anyway. Thanks, and go Caps.
Go. Whoa. Go Caps.
a little house divided there.
I like that.
Yeah, I
Happy
like that
birthday
too.
to Freddie. Hopefully Freddie gets to
Skilo.
celebrate. Skilo, aka Freddie.
Oh, okay.
I wish I was a little bit closer to a conference final.
Yes.
That's where we're
One
at.
more game.
One more game. We'll see what happens.
Closer.
One game closer if they win tonight. All right, let's go to a 919 for another Canes reaction.
What's up, guys? Calling after that rear end kicking of Game 3. Talk about a bounce back after a kind of disappointing Game 2. Really happy with how I felt like the defining story was we didn't let Washington get to their game. I don't think the Canes allow Washington to get any sort of momentum. even after what felt like the first 10 minutes of the game, Washington was pressing, and they came out with a little bit of urgency. I didn't feel like the Canes matched it immediately, but they got to their game for sure in the second period. And man, that third period was probably the most complete in recent memory. Freddie was, of course, lights out. That goes without saying. And by the way, this is the same guy who called the other night about the puck luck. How about that puck luck tonight? Felt like we were getting some of those bounces. And Giglio, you called me a State fan the other night. Don't really take too kindly to that. Go Pirates forever, baby.
I mean,
Wait, what happened there?
they're cousins. That's right. That's fine.
Okay.
I said the guy had to have been a State fan, thinking if we can just beat Duke at home and then beat Carolina at Carolina, we'll make the NCAA and then go beat Tony Bennett. We'll be right there.
Right.
And so, yes, I like that. See the Irate Giglio Conference game recognizes game.
All right, let's go to an 834.
What is the point of the ACC network? Carolina and State, both having really good years in baseball, are nowhere to be found on the ACC network. Meanwhile, the SEC network is playing Mississippi and Ole Miss, or Ole Miss and Mississippi State. So what again is the point of the ACC network?
Are we still dealing with the after effects of the Raycom deal on this one?
I honestly, I don't know.
I honestly don't know.
I do know that the Wolves and Tar Heels played 2 games.
That actually
and they were split.
What's funny, we got one from 910 on Thursday.
Okay.
It's Thursday evening, and it reads, please, all caps, acknowledge the ass whooping UNC baseball put on NC Stank tonight. Somebody's a Theo Pinson fan.
Yeah.
On y'all's show tomorrow. If we're going to talk about State sweeping Clemson, got to talk about that ass beating too. Carolina's number 4 in the country, by the way. But the thing about this weekend,
baseball rankings don't matter.
Well, here's what's interesting about this. If we were to be serious about this for a second, and I understand I have not spent a lot of time, or we have not spent a lot of time talking about ACC baseball,
right?
Because the Canes have occupied most of our time. That was a critical series for both teams in terms of how we view the NCAA tournament. And I know people are a little salty about the fact that yesterday got rained out and straight up canceled. As we start heading
you don't
into,
make up games in the ACC.
And you're starting to head into the ACC tournament and all this kind of stuff matters.
Actual tournament.
The actual, not a jamboree for once. We get a real tournament
Single
this
elimination.
year.
Yep.
So I can see why some people are a little upset about that game being straight canceled. But hey, man, it is what it is. The ACC doesn't mess around with that. All right, time to the Bill Belichick portion of the conversation. I feel like this actually sets the tone with a text from a 919. It feels like we're way past the missing Mac Brown phase and getting mighty close to the what's Larry Fedora up to territory.
Oh, no.
Just let us go back to 7 wins a year in peace. I'm glad we could introduce Pablo to Triangle Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad we could do that.
It's important.
All right, to a 336.
Fellas, Benny Mac here. I just have to say, after following as the Belichick turns, this ongoing saga, I have to say, as a native North Carolinian, it has been downright embarrassing to see what is coming out of Chapel Hill. And it's been this way for 15 years now. And it's embarrassing. And I'm a dyed-in-the-wool Wolfpack NC State fan, have been all my life. But as a native, this is embarrassing. And it goes back to just all the unforced errors that is happening by the forces that be, the powers that be at Carolina. They're supposed to be running this place, and it's supposed to be a pride of our state. And every time I see the locator, Chapel Hill, in a news story, I go, oh God, what have they done now? So anyway, also, cold opens, guys. I love the fact that y'all are lovingly busting each other's balls about random things before you hit the theme song and start the podcast. Do more of that. That's fun. All right. See you around.
Hey, the reason why that happens is if we just want to make sure when we go live on Thursdays, that's typically a live on Thursdays type situation. Because I'm just waiting for people to kind of populate a little bit before we go. Plus a little extra fun on a live Thursday, you know?
This was about the cucumber water, right?
Which honestly,
I think it was. It's not bad.
I'll give it to you. The lemon's not bad.
Oh, the lemon's okay.
The lemon's not bad.
You can't even taste the cucumber.
Yeah, you can.
No.
Dude. I felt like I was in a spa. All right,
That's not a bad thing.
It's not. I'll grab another one while this call's playing, though.
What if all these boosters at UNC, instead of getting rid of Mac Brown, they had just given him the $20 million they gave Bill Belichick to build out the recruitment operation to modernize it? I mean, I don't, maybe, who knows? I mean, I'd like to think Mac would have been able to get better players and get better results on the field, and damn sure would not be dragging UNC through all of his mess like Bill Belichick is doing. And here's the thing, I'm not going to blame Jordan. Yeah, she's a very foolish young girl. She's foolish, and but Bill Belichick has agency in this. And so I'm choosing my language very carefully. This is Bill's fault. You know, he is, Mr. Do Your Job is clearly not doing his in terms of protecting, the brand of UNC football. I can only imagine what this how this looks to players and their parents who are considering playing football for University of North Carolina, whether they're a transfer or even worse, a high school recruit where the parent has influence. It just looks wild. And I'm not even hating on the age difference. That's wild in and of itself, in my opinion, but they're two considering adults. But what does this look like to them? This is a big mess. I feel like Mac Brown would have been a much better steward. Like, if you're going to go with the old guy, go with the guy that has truly shown some love for the brand. And at the time, I wasn't totally against firing Mac Brown. But damn, it would have been better off keeping him and giving him the money than allow this sort of embarrassing behavior. It's clearly an example of Bill Belichick not doing his job very well to corrupt UNC's future and make us a national embarrassment.
I appreciate the call. It was a good call.
You're misremembering what Mac Brown was, though.
There's that aspect of it, too.
Mac Brown is coaching malpractice. He was a double-digit favorite, and he lost so many times outright as a double-digit favorite, like more than any other team in the league by like miles.
Yeah.
And so that's on the coach. And Mac's best team, the best trick he did in his return was he lost in the Orange Bowl and went 8-4, and people lost their mind because they went to the Orange Bowl in the pandemic. He had 2 NFL quarterbacks for 6 years, 4 or 3 a Howell and 2 a May.
And what'd you get?
5 years, and they didn't even so much as get a 10-win season. They did win the division once under Mac.
Also, we can get away from
lost his last 4 bowl games. Like Mac was triangle good to the 20th degree.
We could also go beyond just the wins and the losses. You're trading one power dynamic for another power dynamic, because let's also not forget that Mac was complaining.
That's why he was pushed out.
He was pushed out because he was trying to call the shots. He was calling the shots how long he was going to be there. He was already complaining to anybody who would listen about, well, I'm not getting the financial support that I want. So you traded that power struggle behind the scenes, as we saw in the aftermath of Mac Brown getting let go, by the way. And then now you've traded it for this one. So you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't in these situations. All right, one more. This comes to us from a 919 text. Cue the 311 parody.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Corrections and clarifications.
All mixed up, you don't know what to do. I guess we'll clarify and correct something or two. Because you know what, Joe is not the first or the last. Thing they've got wrong in the past.
According to this listener, I guess in the mailbag, I misnamed Chris Hawkins did not drum for Foo Fighters. It was Taylor Hawkins. Yeah, no, I think we had all sorts of weird confluences of Hawkins.
It's a lot of Hawkins.
A lot of Hawkins in my brain.
Hawkins
man.
eye.
Yes. Love the music talk and takes. Joe doesn't. The Weezer SNL sketch is so niche, but it's one of the best sketches I've ever seen. And I think about that every time as a Weezer fan when we have these conversations. Lastly, been meaning to pick up that Pearl Jam book you mentioned. Thanks for the reminder. Read the 33rd and a 33 and a third book on Verses a month or two ago. It's a good read. We got to get you on that music take, man. I only got so many Bomani invites in the chamber. You know what I'm saying?
Do
I got to bring Hating Ass Hayes in here to talk music?
You can. Yeah.
Okay.
that'd be
Also,
good.
by the way, update on the Paw Patrol take. That's going to require Chris Clark. No, because I made like a straight comment about Paw Patrol being trash, and people are like, "What?" So that honestly, I feel like that one. This is a conversation I've had with Chris, and Chris has a much better presentation over the problematic nature of Paw Patrol, and that is peak summer content.
I look forward to that.
We will bring him in. I figured, like, what's the hook for Chris? I know. We'll do a top 4 at 4 problematic kid shows.
I'll go to Pinehurst, play golf that day, and you talk Paw Patrol. Perfect.
Before we get out of here, big thanks to the Butcher's Market. Check them out online at thebutchersmarkets.com. I know all the tailgating is on deck. Make sure you're tailgating right. Everything you need, from the charcoal, the seasonings, the marinades, and most importantly, the meat. They got it at the Butcher's Market. Also, big thanks to our friends at Keller Williams Commercial. The Donnelly team's got you covered when it comes to the very specific need that is commercial real estate. You need a warehouse to fit all those Bill Belichick books that are going to go unsold? They got you. In all seriousness, more space, retail space, anything that you need for commercial real estate, the Donnelly team, Brian and Julie, they're going to help you out. So check them out online at trianglencommercial.com. Call them directly at 919-616-8681. We spend a lot of time talking about doing things outside in the yard, enjoying your house. You're not going to be able to do that with mosquitoes bothering you. That's where Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority come into play. Check them out, bugsbite.com. Again, that's bugsbite.com. Bundle and save. Take care of the outside of your house and the inside of your house between Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. We will see you for an OG After Dark immediately following the Canes and the Caps at Lenovo Center.